Hi Nikar, thank you very much. It's absolutely a pleasure to be, talking to all of you. It's always fun to interact with young kids who have a lot of energy and excitement and a lot of things ahead in their lives. To be honest, I actually didn't decide. I landed there by chance. Since I'd done my MBA in finance, I always thought that I wanted to pursue a career in finance. I had a strong perception about or against sales. I used to think that sales is for people who are not intellectually endowed. All I wanted to, because I used to like numbers and maths and finance and accounts, I actually was very keen to pursue a career in finance. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I guess now I can say fortunately, when we graduated at that time, the finance industry was not in great shape. So there weren't too many hot finance companies coming to campus to recruit. Though I managed to get into one, it was a reasonably differentiated and a pioneering firm at that point of time. But I also had an offer, or rather a soft indication from another firm. This is in fact when I joined, that come and explore. And I said, no, I'm not really keen to look at anything in sales. But I went and met them, was really excited after the first meeting in terms of what they do, and so the guy who met me, my first boss Samir, he told me, try it for a month. Anyway, you have to start off working in June, so you have a couple of months before you work there. If you like it, you continue. If you don't like, you quit. So I said, sounds like fun. I'll get some pocket money as well. That's how I landed up, and I went to office for a few days. I liked it, and I just continued. So effectively, I actually haven't, in the last 20 years, changed a job. I mean, this is more like a firm where I knew my batchmates had started off, and I joined them. So yeah, it's been exciting. Never wanted to look back and change my profession as such. I think the first thing was that why I liked finance was basically I used to really like solving challenges, so as to speak. A maths problem or an accounts problem or a finance problem was to me like a challenge. It's like a puzzle. It's like playing a game, right? So in the sales was also, to a certain extent, was essentially trying to figure out what is it that this firm or entity would need, and what is it that we could provide, and how is it that we could actually come together and work together. So that was one part. But to be honest, the biggest attraction for me there was not what I was doing, but was the atmosphere. It was like a campus, college-like atmosphere, very informal, very friendly. People could just come to office whenever they wanted and leave whenever they did. And most people used to spend a lot of time in office till like 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. So it was just the kind of environment, and I think a great amount of learning opportunity in terms of what we were doing at that point of time was something that no other firm was actually doing, and that is what excited me. Yeah, I think that was the main reason. And sales actually, to be honest, came in and started liking what I was doing a few months after that. Anything that one does or we all do, and we want to be reasonably successful at it for long periods of time, there is no substitute to kind of putting in the hard work. So the initial phase was extremely challenging. You get out of, or I got out of college or my MBA thinking that I'm reasonably good, intelligent, can communicate well and all of that. And you know what, I'll take this product or service to my clients and I'll have a lot of success. What I realized was that it was quite difficult. It was extremely challenging. It was a lot of rejections because I went half prepared sometimes, or didn't understand the dynamics of who in the client organization is the user of my service, who's the decision maker for these services. What is it that I have to offer will fit in with exactly what he or she is looking for. So in terms of journey, it is, Nikar, to be honest, it was quite grueling. And then we had to prepare a lot internally, read a lot, understand a lot in terms of the products that we were offering. You are like itching to get out of office and make a mark outside. And this was like 3 months of just sit in office, get a go ahead from your colleagues. Once they say that you are ready to go out, only then you were allowed to go out. So it was a grueling 3-month period where you're itching to go out, but you're not allowed to go out till your colleagues have certified you in one sense that you're good enough to go and represent the brand or the firm to the outside world. So if you go by the traditional or widely understood meaning of what the salesperson does every day, is he or she wakes up, just thinks about who I'm going to catch and sell my product. Whole day he or she is roaming around or calling people or meeting people and trying to figure out who's this next person that I can actually go and sell my product or service to. In life actually it doesn't happen that way, I mean maybe in certain professions it does, but where it requires a lot of just hard selling and going door to door. Essentially what one does is read, try and connect the dots, understand what is happening in the environment, what is happening in the industry or the business that you are in, what is happening with the kind of customers that we are addressing, that you can actually take to the customer. It's not as if things are constant, things keep changing over a period of time. So even if you go and meet people every day, you need to be aware about what are the developments, what are the changes, what are the big stories that are happening which can become a good part of conversation with the customer as such. So I think to summarize, one is reading, second is networking, third is essentially trying to assimilate all that in your mind and connecting the dots so that you can make use of that information to the benefit of the customer and for the whole firm. So that is essentially what you do. I think if you ask a person over a long period of time who's been in sales over a long period of time, a lot of preparation goes into before actually just going and meeting a customer or making a pitch or making a presentation. There's a lot of preparation that goes in, which will ensure that the outcome of the effort is leading to a higher success rate. Processes would differ, approaches would differ, customer segment would probably differ, but the core doesn't differ. At least that's what I feel. The core of what you do, because I used to be in institutional sales earlier, selling to banks, financial institutions, large corporates. Now our customer segment is individuals. I don't see a big gap in the way I had to transition myself, because the core of what we are doing essentially is trying to address a particular need, an expressed need or a need which is not yet fully expressed. We're trying to essentially provide a solution which will enable a win-win so you provide a product or service, customer is going to benefit from it. So understanding the customer, having a product or a service which meets the requirements of the customer, deciding your unique sales or distribution or outreach strategy, that would differ from industry to industry and probably even from a firm to firm. Not all firms in the same space also utilize the same methods to sell. But the core of it, I think, is pretty much the same. The motivations of human beings at the end of the day are largely greed and fear, right? So they don't change, and I don't think they change because whether you are selling a shampoo or whether you are selling a research product or you are selling a banking product as such. Somebody is wanting to buy a shampoo maybe because the hair will be good, smooth, silky, whatever, less hair fall. So an element of greed and fear in that. If I don't use it, my hair will start falling. The same way in a research services which we used to sell earlier, that I need to have good research and good information and insight. Otherwise, I probably make a wrong economic decision. So I think the basics remain same. You probably have different target market, different strategies, different distribution models, and that's the exciting part. Even within the same firm, 10 years back, the way we used to conduct the sales function 10 years later, the way we used to conduct the sales function also evolved and changed.
Okay.
So just to give you an example, when I started off, there were not great databases like we all have today. Right? You can Google, there was no Google. In fact, there was hardly, the internet was just about, making inroads. If we had to go and target people, there was this yellow pages or directories, or the best way was, pick up your bag, go to a business district like Nariman Point at that point of time, go on the top floor and circle all the offices and walk down each floor. And that's how you built databases of people, of firms. 10 years later, if you told somebody that go and do that, it's a waste of time because you have a lot of information available. So things do change, in the same industry itself, and the way you would go and communicate to somebody would change. The way your product is delivered, from something like printed reports to something which is available in the web at any point of time, or on your laptop or on the handheld devices. So that would also change. But the core, I think, probably is something that doesn't change. And from whatever limited experience I've had outside India as well, selling in global markets for 3 years, I don't think the core of it really changed. If I'm dealing with somebody in UK or Spain or Germany or US, the typical constituents remain the same. I can look back at my journey and talk a bit about from that experience, and I guess there will be a lot of similarities in many other people that I know of, my colleagues, ex-colleagues, counterparts and friends. So when you start off, right, you have to establish credibility. And to establish credibility, you have to make sure that you do your job well. So if you are given a particular responsibility, it could be a small part of the sales function. It could be just managing the after-sales function of the team. It could be managing existing clients. It could be taking and pitching to some smaller clients. Because on day one, you are not going to get the meaty part, right? You're not going to get the best customers of the firm to manage and handle, unless you are starting off on your own. You're working in an institutionalized setup, that's how you will progress. So first is you are trying to understand, you're trying to figure out from people around you, people who have been with the firm, and from whatever other friends and colleagues that you have. What is it that you need to do, right? And understand from them, but you try and make your own method of approaching things. So the first few years are essentially, trying to get your grounding, setting up your base, as I would like to call it, this foundation years where you understand because human beings are pretty complex, right? So you go to a customer thinking that this is how people will behave, and they don't. This is how, if this is a firm which is, a lot in the news and will therefore have a lot of money, and it's a big firm and therefore will need my services, you probably be wrong, because maybe somebody else, because this firm may have everything that you might have to offer. So I think a lot of it is like trial and error, trying to get the grounding, but most importantly, you are trying to understand and know 3 or 4 things well. One is your product or service, whatever you are offering to the market. Second is understanding the customer. What is it that they need? How is it that they function? That is their gap, which will help through your product and service meet that gap, and therefore make his life or her life better. We're trying to understand what's happening in the environment. So I think essentially, and to a certain extent, understanding other firms, competition. Fortunately for the firms that I worked with, we were market leaders, and we didn't worry too much about competition. Our focus was always on the customer. And if you can really kind of stay on top of the customer requirements, you don't need to worry too much about competition. So our focus was mainly about understanding the product or the service, the firm, the legacy of the firm, so that you can communicate that to the customers when that discussion comes up. Understanding the customers and understanding the environment in which they are operating. Then from there on, once you get some initial success, you get more responsibility. Right? That's something that would typically happen in any function, in any role. That once you do something well, you'll be given more responsibility, and you'll get larger responsibility. Over time, your views are valued internally. If you say that if I make some changes to my product this way, to your product team, if I go to my product team and say, hey, look, this is what the customers are finding as gaps or additional benefits if we were to provide these things. So you could contribute in product development or developing a completely new set of products or services. It could be in deciding the channel in which we are distributing or servicing our customers. So it could be marketing, it could be on how we should market, brand, and do the outreach for our products and services. So it purely depends on, after the initial grounding that you've done, on how much interest you take, how much you believe that you can contribute, how much the firm allows you, as opportunities to explore, maybe give you that space. So it's a combination of things, but over a period of time you can actually evolve into even the strategy, the strategy for the firm, in which market should we be in, what kinds of products and services we should stop. It's not necessary that somebody made a product and or the service is something that you need to continue. So it can evolve into a lot of things over a period of time, which can essentially become the overall strategy for the firm. And with respect to, so I see it as, you are the ears and the eyes of the firm. So there is a fantastic opportunity over time that you can shape the thinking, shape the strategy, shape to some extent, the future of the firm. I think a couple of points that you raised, I do get cold calls as well. Now with this D&D function in the mobile phones, you probably get less of those, or you can block people off. But I'm generally sympathetic to salespeople, being in the sales function myself. So I generally don't really abruptly hang up on people. But you're right, most people don't like somebody just walking into their office or calling them at some point of time when they're doing something else. So I think over a period of time, the evolution has happened where earlier there was no such mechanism where, there were no mobile phones, right? 20 years back when I started my sales career. So it just got introduced a year or two after that. But it was exorbitantly expensive, so you're not owning one at that point of time. So the default option was to call, or at best, email was also just starting off. So even if you had email, maybe you didn't have emails of the potential customer, or they didn't have email at all. So you would write a letter to them. So from there, the industry has evolved now, right? I think there is a lot of other other channels that people use through LinkedIn or other social media, where you can be present in their mind and or get references from your existing customers and all of that. The initial phase is not easy. It's something where if people haven't heard of the brand that you represent, 5 times they will ask you, why are you calling, right? So it has evolved over time, and it is definitely challenging in the initial phase. Typical understanding of a salesperson is that he's a crook. A lot of people have that assumption or notion that a sales guy is a crook. He's going to be a sweet talker who will sell you something, right? I think a lot of sales happens if you don't go with the intention of selling. If you go with the intention of trying to develop an understanding on what is it that this guy might actually want, and bring what you have on offer to connect to that need, or you be very honest and say that you need this, I don't think I have anything to offer to you. Maybe when we develop certain products or services. Now obviously you can't go randomly to everybody and start that conversation. So you need to define your target market and make those inroads. You will have to go through the hard yards of doing some amount of cold calling or reaching out to people. But there are more polite ways these days than just abruptly picking up the phone and getting somebody's mobile or email. I mean, there are databases available, there is information available. If you can really, in that first 1 minute or 30 seconds, capture the interest of the person to listen to you or read your email for the next bit, I think you can make progress. So as a salesperson, you need to really understand where is it that I am actually getting rejected. Is it in my introduction? Is it after the introduction? Something else that his need and my product is not in sync, or where? So I think the initial part is just a lot about trying to learn. And if the institute or the firm that you're working for has a template of success of getting customers, I think that could be of great help in the initial phase. I think the typical understanding that I had, right? I mean, I never really thought about what I want to be in my 12th or even till I graduated. I had a faint idea, but typical perception people have is that you need to have certain skills. I think the biggest learning that I have had is that you yourself don't know all your skills and interests, and those evolve over time based on the friends that you have, the company that you have, maybe the subjects that you choose. You like some of them, you probably don't like some of them. So it's a process. To be wedded to an idea a little early, I don't know how early is early, right? But I can only say that I've had an experience where I thought that sales was not for me, and I've been proved wrong. I did reasonably well and continue to enjoy what I do. I would say, unless somebody is really clear, the best way about choosing is to look at some people around and see, would I want to be somebody like this? Would I enjoy doing something that somebody that I can see is doing? Do I enjoy meeting people? Do I enjoy trying to solve problems of my clients? Or am I really passionate about a particular product or a service? And from there, are you passionate to create that or take it to market? I think you answer some of those questions. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer whether 12th and 11th is the right time to decide on your career. I would personally say, you keep narrowing down your options as you progress in your academic career. Probably eliminate something, but don't have a strong bias. I think you're born with certain things that you believe you're born with, but actually over time you realize that no, I'm not really great at it. It also happens that you feel you're good at something and you actually, or you're bad at something and you turn out that you're not that bad and probably you like some of those things. I certainly feel that anything that a person wants to do can be developed. It might take a slightly longer period of time or a little more effort because it doesn't come naturally. Is it impossible? Absolutely no. So I've had maybe 100 guys working in my teams or my colleagues, over the past 10, 15, 20 years that I've seen. And not everybody that I thought on the first instance that would be a fantastic salesperson turned out to be one. At the same time, the other way around as well. I thought that maybe this guy is not naturally inclined and may not be really enjoying this. But over time, people even moved from the research or the product function to the sales function. So I've seen people moving this way and the other as well, from the other side as well. Right? So I don't certainly believe that you're born with it. I think it's something that you can work upon very, very religiously and dedicatedly for a period of time to achieve, whether it's sales or anything else. Nothing is something that you should eliminate or expect that this is forgiven. I'm born with this, so I can do this. No, it doesn't happen that way. Again, my personal example, right? I was an introvert, and this is not about glorifying me as such, but I'm just sharing experience for whatever it's worth to all the young kids out there. I went for a small summer course on public speaking, and I was terrified. Okay, I couldn't stand in front of a few people, 15, 16-year-olds, and all of them had come in there to improve, right? So everybody was more or less in the same boat, but I was absolutely terrified. My legs were trembling. I would stammer because you're just so nervous. And the topic in my final speech was on inferiority complex, and that was about what I had written about how I felt. So just because I could not, get up and speak to people at will, that I had a feeling that maybe I'm not good. Okay, maybe I was good in many other things, but I certainly saw a challenge there. But I think I've done enough. Okay, I think over a period of time, as I said, you have opportunities, you learn, and your friends, your family, your firm that you work with, and I think once you start working, that's where you spend most of your time, or at least we did, more than at home. So I think it depends on how the overall environment that you get, and how much motivated you are yourself to make it happen. Okay, so while some things may come naturally to you, some things will take a while and may be difficult. I don't think a person who is introvert, a lot of people have a perception that sales is a lot about talking. It's a lot about listening as well. And the best communicators, or some of the best communicators that I've seen or related to, are the ones who really listen to you well, and you really connect well with them. People like to meet people. Everyone likes to hear their own voice, right? So if you're listening to me and I'm speaking, I like you because you're giving me time to listen to me. So that's an important skill which people underestimate. I think if people are good listeners, is a great skill. It's a fantastic skill. I'm still trying to improve upon that, because instinctively I speak more, but it's very important to be a good listener in a sales function. So, certain skills which are important, like I said, one is communication, which includes both listening as well as speaking. So one can probably focus a little bit on the communication bit. It could be oral, written, anything, or both is ideal. The other part is maybe presentation skills related to communication. It could be developing a liking or an understanding for certain topics, certain areas or products or service lines. Because if you are doing something day in and day out, what you like, it will not seem like a job. It will not seem like work. So maybe develop some interest by reading or visiting people. Yeah, of course, there are courses for sales, just as there are for many other or all functions, right? So there's no doubt that a course will help you. But when you're talking about kids, in the teens, mid-teens, and so on. But I think some of the things which are important, which I've seen that over 10, 20, 30 years will outlast. A particular skill may be relevant for a particular decade or two or whatever. But certain things I think are important they don't change. So, being inquisitive, trying to read what's happening in the overall context of the environment, being a good communicator, listening, your presentation skills, whether it is written communication, oral communication, or maybe some good online presentation skills that you can develop. Some of those things people can actually work upon. But I think one thing which is important is to kind of have an inquisitive mind, continuously have some curiosity to learn, to understand, because nothing goes waste. So you start off doing sales, which is the grounding for you, and then, as I mentioned in the previous examples, you could probably contribute towards product development, innovation. You could move from sales function to a marketing and sales function. You could move to maybe the strategy function as such. So you need to have those skills. You need to build those skills. I mean, you can't just say that I'm in sales and if I'm successful, then somebody will place me somewhere else. You need to demonstrate, have an interest and demonstrate some value in some of those functions. Maybe over a period of time also learn a little bit more, maybe attend some conferences or a few short courses to learn a little bit more about some of these other functions. Talk to certain people in those functions that I've been here, now I want to move somewhere. What are the options available where opportunities do come by? But it is not a restrictive field. Just let me put it that way. It's not as if that you start off in sales, you end your career in sales. You can move to advertising, marketing, strategy. Many of the functions. There are many CEOs of successful companies who have had a sales background. Right? Most people in the FMCG industry who would risen to the top levels in those firms have started off actually being in the sales and maybe doing semi-urban or maybe going to tier 2 cities. That's how they get grounded. They get kind of you do the hard yards, and then you progress. So if you have an understanding of the customer, if you have an understanding of the market, you have an understanding of the marketplace, there are things that, and you have a curious mind and you have the ability and the intention and the opportunities to contribute, there are several things that you can do. You can get set up an innovation center, an R&D center. You'll obviously need help of other people who are far more specialized in some of those things to come along with you. But you can progress reasonably successfully and really chart out a path or a career for your own self starting off. I mean, and the same holds true for other functions as well. It's not as if that you start in sales, you can move anywhere. I think many other functions you do similar things, you learn, you experiment, you refresh your thinking with some courses or conferences and all of that. Essentially continuously have a learning attitude and you can progress to many different fields. So there are both opportunities as well as challenges. Challenges in the sense that if you continue to do what you're doing, you are going to get extinct at some point of time because things change, world progresses, and humanity has this positive attitude towards progress. So things change, right? I mean, if whatever we were doing 30 years back, if we continue to do now, you're not going to be remaining relevant. So what are the opportunities? The opportunities are that if you can use these developments to your advantage, then you can be even more successful. So I think these questions will keep coming up every 10-20 years, that now we are going to have this change or that change or this breakthrough technology or something of that sort, and how will this industry remain remained relevant, or this function or this profession remained relevant. Like with artificial intelligence, people are asking why do we need so many lawyers and so many doctors, where people can actually predict the disease that you might have and take precautions up front, or some of the things you can automatically get answers for without actually going and consulting. So I think what will get impacted are the lower end things which are mundane and which can be easily answered. It's difficult to pinpoint one or two because there are so many small ones which over time add up to your learning and experiences. But I think the ones which teach us the most, or at least taught me the most and helped me improve, are my failures. Right? So one of this thing was in whatever year 2000 or something, 16, 17 years back, 18 years back now. So I went to a client and I went there to meet him, taking over from one of my colleagues who used to manage that client earlier, that organization. So I go in and I walk into this senior gentleman in a bank, and I tell him I'm so and so from so and so firm, and then he asks me, okay, are you from so and so firm? I said yes. I thought he's really happy to see me, and he says, get out. I said, sorry? So he says, get out. So I was like completely shocked. 3 years into my career, looking forward to a new territory and new region that I had started to manage. And the client tells me exactly these words, get out. It was not only shocking, it was downright insult. And this was despite me seeing him for the first time. So I said, what is it that has happened? Why is it that you're saying this? And he said that your colleague who came about a year back and offered these services to us, promised a lot of things but never showed up and never serviced us or never gave us time and all of that. And we are extremely unhappy that we wasted our money. And it was a Saturday, I remember distinctly. Those days banks used to work all Saturdays. So it was Saturday afternoon around 2 o'clock. And he says, I don't want to see your face. And it was quite disturbing because we believe you have a good product, good service, good set of customers. All of them are, even if they don't want to take your service, they're not insulting you. And so it was quite unnerving and shocking at that point of time. So I didn't know what to say, but what came out was, I think probably today is not the right day to talk to you. You give me a chance to meet you once and understand what exactly has happened and how I can correct it. So he said no, and I kept asking him that even if you don't want to work with us, I still want to make sure that you not had a bad experience while you leave with us, while you leave us. So, and I kept kind of requesting him. So he said, I don't have any time today. And I said, okay, well, let's meet on Monday. He said, I'm going back to Bombay. I said, I am, but I'll come back on Monday. So he got a little mellowed down and said, okay, maybe this guy is genuinely wanting to meet me and all of that. So I flew back on Monday, and he was quite polite after that, because he genuinely thought that I've come there with the intention of really, addressing his issue. I took part of my colleagues as well, and we had a reasonably good conversation, honest conversation. Though I was not personally involved, we accepted, because like you get benefit for whatever your predecessors have done, right? You also get impacted for whatever has happened, and the brand of your organization, if it has benefited you, will also come to back you on the bite you on the backside if you not delivered to the expectations that were set. So the learning was huge at that time. One was that you can't take anything for granted. Just because an organization or somebody has made a sale doesn't mean that your work ends there. The after sales experience is far more important, because you promise something to somebody or somebody has expected something from you, unless you have overcommitted, and ideally don't overcommit anything. So that was one big learning, that selling is one part, but I think maintaining good, going beyond the expectations to serve somebody is equally important or more important, because once somebody forms a bad opinion about you, you lost that customer and 20 others that he would talk negatively about, or at least not speak anything positively about. That is also an opportunity lost, because most of your clients are the ones who keep saying good things or giving you good references. The challenging ones are the ones which give you the most satisfaction, whether you immediately succeeded in that at that point of time or not. But over a period of time, I think they give you the best learning to succeed in other tougher situations. So one, be prepared for the hard yards. There is no substitute to hard work. There is no substitute to getting instant success. We are living in an age of instant gratification. People get everything on their mobiles. You click something, you get. You want to eat food, you can be actually sitting wherever and just order it on a Zomato or a Swiggy and food will arrive. But in your work, whether it is in sales or any other area, there is no instant success. There is no formula for instant success. I think you have to create your own style. You have to create your own method to succeed. People will give you some broad rules, guidelines. Like I've spoken about it. Many other people will speak about it. But be prepared to fail. Other thing which is most important is that you have to leave your team, because when people say no to you, it's not very exciting. So you come out and you got out of a fantastic course and you're like, you feel that you have a great product, a great idea, and you have a great academic qualification. You've always been used to succeeding and doing well. And 7 out of 10 guys, if you're lucky, only 7 out of 10 guys will reject it. If you are not, it'll probably be 9 or 10 out of 10 in the initial phase. So, and if you get success too early, then you should be worried that you're going to have failures, which probably will be more difficult to come out of. The earlier the failure you get, the higher the chances of your success over long term. So I think people have to be realistic that we're living in a world where there are a lot of other smart and intelligent people, good products, good services that are being offered. Customers' expectations are also reasonably as high as we have from as consumers of other products and services. So be realistic. First 2-3 years, just don't question where is my career going, what is my success, etc. Just continue to put in the hard yards, and then you have a good mentor or a friend or a colleague with whom you can share the learnings, keep improving. I think those are important things, because even if you get success, it's important to know what could have been done better, or what could have been improved, or why is it that I didn't fail this time. And the same thing with the failures. So don't get too strict with yourself, but don't take life too seriously.